Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to Led to Gold, the podcast that is devoted to discussing all things growth and wellness. Wherever you are in life, whatever is going on with you, I hope that this conversation that we have today, or on any of the episodes that you might see here, can kind of help guide you through your path. I try to keep it pretty relevant to the general topic of doing better, getting through some things in life that may be challenging, and just seeing where we can go from where we are. And that's ultimately the conversation that I hope to have on this show. My name is Erin Taylor. I am a high school English teacher. I'm about to enter my 4th year of teaching. So that is what I do for work, but it's not at all what this podcast is about. In fact, I have yet to have an episode really devoted to my career as a teacher. That might change soon, but we'll get there. In any case, this is my passion project. This is truly what I enjoy discussing with people in my life and people who I may not know. So if we don't know each other in person, hi, I'm so happy to have you. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're listening. And I do want to ask if at any point that you are listening to this episode or maybe one of the others, if you're enjoying it, feel free to leave a review on whatever streaming platform you're using. If you find any episodes in particular that you think a friend might enjoy, send it over to them. Ultimately, this is something that I hope to build a community out of, and it helps a lot by sharing when we can, leaving little reviews, things like that. So I would really appreciate it if you're feeling called to doing so. And in general, just thank you for being here. I'm super excited to have you. Today's conversation is honestly going to be, I think, a pretty quick one. I kind of just wanted to give a little bit of a life update and share some lessons that have been gathering from my summer off of teaching. Most public school teachers, I think, are sort of in the same boat. We usually have about 2 months off for the summer, and fortunately, I don't have to do any other work on this time off, which I'm so grateful for. But I have been spending a lot of time devoting to this podcast and to my blog, Led to Gold. They're both under the same name. If you're interested in checking that out, the link is in the show notes. But that's kind of what I've been tending to do over the summers at this point in time, just devote my time to my little passion projects. And it feels really good to be able to do that. And part of what I wanted to talk about today also is the fact that now that I am about to go back to school, my first day is this coming Wednesday. So I've got 5 more days off. I'm going to be having a lot of episodes come out in the coming months that are pre-recorded. So some of the things that I end up talking about may not be completely hyper relevant to my life at the time, but mostly I try to keep things pretty generic anyway in terms of when they are happening. So I'll try to do that to the best of my ability, but just so you are aware, most of the episodes that will be out probably between now and sometime in October are going to be pre-recorded. So I have a couple more guest episodes coming out soon, which I'm really excited for. And those are just going to be full of some great conversations. Those and the ones by myself. So very excited for that. In any case, by the time this episode comes out, we are entering Virgo season, which is my rising sign. And I freaking love Virgo season. I'm happy we're here. This also probably has something to do with the fact that I am a teacher, but this always feels like the perfect time in the year, the calendar year, to kind of pare back what we've been taking in. Summer's not over yet. It's probably still super hot in most parts of the country. I know it is in Virginia where I'm at. But we're starting to feel those first twinges of fall. And especially with going back to school, that's always been a really nostalgic and really kind of happy time for me as a kid. I was just talking to my parents about this. I used to be so excited when back to school shopping commercials would come on TV, even though I loved summer and I always enjoyed it and I, wanted to make the most of that time. I couldn't help but get excited when it was time to go back to school shopping because I was like, ooh, I get to buy some new clothes. Like maybe I can go get some, like new school supplies. And it just feels fresh and new. And I'm still getting a lot of that feeling, even though I don't have to necessarily buy all of that stuff every year. It's not really about buying the things anyway. Just that feeling of like, okay, like summer's dwindling. It's about to kind of sort of quiet down, but there's still so much going on in life around this time. But anyway, Virgo, the start of this season always feels like a time to prioritize organization and just where we want to see ourselves, what we hope to kind of manifest for the end of the calendar year and just kind of like where we're headed. And the reason I say Virgo and like the start of school always go hand in hand for me, not just because they're at the same time, but also because that same feeling of like, okay, time to get organized, time to get my priorities straight. Like I'm turning a new leaf. In a way, this is also kind of a new year. I'm starting a new year. I'm starting a new school year. So it's got that same sort of energy. And I'm just really excited to be here. What I ultimately wanted to discuss with you guys today were some of the lessons and things that I have experienced this summer that are leading me into this new season. Because whether we always want it to happen or not, I feel like, as exciting as this season is for me, it can also be a little bit sad, a little bit bittersweet, because it's like, oh man, like I don't have the freedom that I just had for the past 2 months. I can't just like lay naked in my backyard and read my book anymore. I have to go back to work. We got to do all these things. Life gets a little bit hectic in a way again, maybe a little bit stressful. So I'm wanting to focus on the 4 major lessons, the 4 major sort of themes that brought me through the summer and that are sort of here with me at the end. I'm talking lots about astrology today, but we also just finished up the Lionsgate portal as I'm recording this. It's August 12th. I know this is coming out a couple weeks after that, but that is also known as a great time to start really like manifesting and figuring out where we want to see ourselves going. So I'm going to share today 4 lessons that I've kind of come to a conclusion about in the past few months and where I see those taking me. And I would love to know, as I'm talking about these things, if any of them resonate with you. Sometimes when I have these conversations and when I start them with friends, I just really get excited because it always feels like there's a synchronicity happening between what I'm experiencing, the lessons that I'm learning, and also the lessons that my friends are learning. So if you're in the same boat with any of these, share it with me. Tell me what's going on in your life. You can always reach out to me on Instagram or by email. And again, all of those links are in the show notes. But anyway, before I get into the lessons, I want to talk about essentially like what was going on with me this summer. What did I do? What was most memorable? And in all honesty, I may have talked about this at the beginning of the year, right when the podcast started, but I was feeling like I really needed to gear up for this summer because immediately when graduation happened at my school, that's always my last day of work. Literally the next day, I packed up my car with my best friend who flew all the way in here from Montana, and we drove down to Bonnaroo. And that was my first time ever going to a multiple day music festival. So that in and of itself just felt like the most perfect start to summer. I cannot even explain. Like we saw so many artists that I'd never seen before and I've always wanted to. And just, it was 4 days of bliss and fun and glitter and drinking and just all the fun stuff. Like all the things that I kind of miss while I'm teaching. It was a great time to just kind of like unravel and have a little fun and kick back. But at the same time, it was really nice because we didn't go that hard. I always, before, because that was my first music festival, I always thought that sort of your rite of passage of going to a music festival or doing it for your first time is that you're going to be in like a grungy tent camping situation and it's going to be hot and you're not going to shower and you're going to smell bad after day one and like be super dehydrated and feel like shit, honestly. But like power through all of it. And that was not our experience at all. I knew ahead of time that we were getting a camper, but I did not really put into consideration like how much of a game changer it was going to be to have a camper with us. And we didn't even, not to get into all the details, but we didn't even put water in the camper. We didn't pay for water because it was kind of expensive. So we didn't even have a shower. But nonetheless, being able to sleep in an actual bed of sorts with AC for as much of a nature girly as I am, I really felt like that was cheating. But at the same time, I was so grateful for it because I know sleeping in a tent in a dusty ass field, if you've ever been to Bonnaroo, you know how either dusty it is or how muddy and crappy it is. It felt wonderful, honestly, to be able to go back to a camper and open the door to like crisp, cool AC every night. Oh my gosh, it was the best. And then it was also nice because I was with people, all of the people in my group had been at least one time before. So they kind of knew what they were doing. They knew where things were. I could rely on them. I can also fare on my own, but it was nice to be there with like sort of seasoned professionals of Bonnaroo because they could give me the tips and make sure that I was hydrated and make sure that I brought in to the festival whatever I needed for that day. So I just felt so taken care of amidst like the fun and energetic chaos that a music festival brings. So it was absolutely perfect. And just while we're here, thought I might share my favorite performance was Sophie Tucker. Oh my goodness. They killed it. They absolutely killed it. And I think it was later that same night, completely different genre switch, but on the same stage we saw Tyler Childers, and he also, like, I don't listen to him that much, but he had me sobbing. So it was just great. And then I think we finished that night out with ODESZA. So lots of little genre flips, but that was probably my favorite part of the festival, in all honesty. I'm a very multi-genre girly. So being able to go to a music festival where every genre is there and like people representing different music groups that I really love were all there. And it was just perfect. Just honestly, such a perfect weekend. We had so much fun. We got lucky with the weather. Nobody went overboard. Nobody got too, partied out or anything. It was just absolutely perfect. So grateful for that. And then I had about 2 weeks at home where I wasn't doing much. I got AP certified because I'm teaching AP Lang this year. So that was just like a little quick bounce back into the sort of work environment, but also great because it just got me feeling a lot more confident about a new subject that I'm going to be teaching this year. And then straight from there, went on a lake trip with some friends for the 4th of July. Super fun. That's been a tradition. This is our 3rd year doing that. So I hope it continues. I am so happy that I'm at the age now where I can start to actually like plan out these trips and rent out houses and rent boats and do things like that with my friends. Like that's definitely a perk of being in your later 20s. As much as I'm like not super looking forward to getting older, that's a huge perk. And I love being a mid 20s, later 20s something. It's just fun. Like we get to do all of these things and we actually have the money for it now where we don't really have to like worry about how much the boat costs. So that was great. Came back home again, had another 2 weeks. And then just this past week, I was on vacation with my family in the Outer Banks, which felt so special. And it is something that I've been aware of. I actually wrote about this on my blog this past week. It's something I've been aware of for a couple years, but when I go on vacation with my family forever, it has been my immediate family. So my brother, my parents, and then my mom's parents and her sister and her family. So my cousins are there. That's always been like the family unit that goes. We've always gone to the Outer Banks. I think this has been something we've done essentially every year. There's been a few years where it didn't work out, but over 20 years now, we've been making this happen. And it is not lost on me that my grandparents are getting up there in age. They're both fortunately still very healthy and doing amazing, and I'm so grateful for that. But I do recognize, every time we go now, or every time we have a Christmas together, every time we do anything together, I recognize that like this is on a limited time frame. I don't want to say that this year was the last time it'll ever happen. Hopefully it's not, but you never know, So every time now that we get together and do a vacation, it just feels so special. And I try to absorb every second of it and be present for all of it and spend quality time with them. I really try not to like sit on my phone too much or like be in my room. Like I really just want to be with my family and not distracted at all from that process. But it was such a good trip this year. My cousins and I are all getting older. We're all starting to get partners that come on the trips with us. So my brother's wife was there, and my youngest cousin's boyfriend was there, and my partner was there. And it was just so fun because like we're finally starting to have these like almost new family dynamics come into the picture. And that newness paired with the tradition just feels so special. And I'm just so grateful for it. So that's where I'm at this point in time. That was last week. And then this past week, I've just been honestly doing a lot of nothing, organizing the house a little bit, getting ready for this new season. So with all of that, all of these things that I was fortunate to be able to do this summer, there were a lot of lessons that came in with them. And I'm trying to keep them in mind as I go back into the swing of things in my career. If you're somebody who is familiar with Led to Gold or you follow my work, you probably know that this past year at school was pretty difficult for me. And I was really bummed out by it because I think it does happen to most teachers eventually, but it dawned on me that like, wow, this might not be a forever thing for me. I might not be that teacher that sticks around for 35 years. And that bummed me out because I really do love the job. But there are a lot of things coming up in the educational system in America these days that is just really, really difficult to deal with. And that's always a large part of what makes it hard to stay. That's a conversation for another day. But ultimately, what I want to do is come into this year feeling more confident and feeling more sure of myself, and ultimately just having stronger footing in what I know I'm capable of and what I want to see happen with my kids in my classroom. So without further ado, the 4 lessons that I've essentially taken from this summer and all of these amazing things that I've been able to do and the time that I've been able to have to reflect on it are the following. The first one is presence, awareness, and communication are always holding hands. They're always together. They're always intertwined. The second is that it is okay to rest, and it is okay to rest hard. The third is that it is okay to invest in yourself. And the fourth is that everything doesn't have to be a thing. Okay, so I'm going to go back and explain all of these, but I just wanted to list them out so that we kind of have a roadmap for where we're going. But in any case, taking all of these into the next stage of life. So let's talk about number 1 first. Presence, awareness, and communication are always holding hands. The thing that I think brought this up for me is ultimately this past week with my family vacation. Having the wherewithal to like recognize just how special and just how sacred it is that I'm still able to participate in a vacation with my family, with my aging parents and grandparents, and with my cousins whose lives are all kind of starting to head in different directions. It is nothing short of a blessing. But one thing that I am always very aware of is not wanting to take that for granted and wanting to make every second count. And also, this is something that I'm still working on. This is not something that I've perfected, but it's something that I've definitely been reflecting on post vacation, is knowing that there are things that I want to say to my family, or things that I want to say or ask in general to anybody, but maybe not being confident enough to ask, or not being sure if it is the right time, or like if it would be perceived weird. I don't know if anxiety is the right word, but there's definitely some amount of unsureness going into that. So something that I'm hoping to work on in this coming stage is really being present with the people around me, and really, really being able to hone in on the energy of a room. This is something that I could have gone into more detail about with my episode with Nadia, the last Led to Gold episode, where we talked a little bit about human design. So I've known for a couple years now that I'm a reflector, and I do mention this in that episode. I'm still learning the basics of human design and what it actually means to be a reflector. But the main things that I do know are that I am very, very good at reading a room and understanding the energy of the people around me. And I personally believe that that is a quality that makes me a very strong teacher, and maybe not necessarily a strong leader, but somebody that can like take hold of a room and kind of direct where we go. But that only works well if we have the confidence to actually give it direction. And that's something that I'm still working on. So the reason that I also bring up my family vacation in this conversation is, more specifically, I've had it in my brain for months now that I definitely need to have a day where I sit down with my grandparents and just like talk about their lives and the things that I maybe don't know about their pasts and where they came from and things like that. I mean, I've started to dip my toe into that, but it's something that I want to do more. And another example of that was kind of funny, kind of embarrassing. I talked to my grandpa about sort of like his childhood, and I was like, "You had like 9 siblings, didn't you, Papa?" And he was like, "No, I had 1 sister." My dad had like 9 siblings, 10 siblings. And I was like, "Oh." And then I was so embarrassed because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've been thinking this for years for some reason, that my papa had like all of these siblings, but he didn't." And yeah, just something that I want to try to focus in on more is hearing truly what people are saying, taking it in and learning from it, and then kind of directing the conversation, directing where we go from there. Not necessarily to take advantage of a situation or to make it happen for my benefit, but back to the main idea, just being able to recognize what the people around me need and what might be able to make a situation better, right? And so for teaching, that's important because every classroom is different. Every group of students is different. And doing every single class the same exact way just simply doesn't work. So I want to kind of hone in on that ability to recognize what each group needs and how I can best help them succeed and figure things out on their own and practice critical thinking skills and have great conversations ultimately, especially with teaching AP Lang this year. I am so looking forward to having some like really thoughtful conversations with my kids. So that's something to look forward to. Presence, awareness, and communication are always holding hands. The three of them always need to be together for any of them to be effective, if that makes sense. All right, lesson 2. It's okay to rest, and it's okay to rest hard. This has been a big thing for me for a very long time. And again, if you have been following and listening to my stuff for a while, you know this about me. I love to sleep. I love sleeping. I could do it all the time. I could do it anywhere, literally anywhere, for any amount of time. I just love it. I can't get enough. And it has been a really long struggle, in all honesty, because this is going to maybe sound silly to some people, but I remember hearing or reading one time, probably in college, maybe late high school, that if you sleep over a certain number of hours per day, that means that you are like more likely to be depressed. And that just really stuck with me for some reason, because I was like, I don't know, it was something like 10 hours. If you sleep 10 hours or more a day, you're more likely to be depressed. And it's still an idea that I just kind of can't get over, where I'm like, oh, I do that. Am I depressed? Like, is that bad? Should I not? So a big part of me has always tried not to do that. Like, I always want to get in 8 hours. And also, I look back on my sleep schedule from high school, and it was like perfect. You know, I'd go to bed at midnight. I'd wake up at 7 a.m., 7 hours, no problems whatsoever. And then maybe I'd take a half-hour nap when I come home from school, but that's all I would need. And I'd just be good with that. It has not been that way for a long time. I want to even say probably pre-quarantine. Quarantine definitely made it worse, but I just love sleeping. And it worries me sometimes because it worries me and it makes me feel bad, because I want to be awake for the day. You know, I would love so much to be a member of the 6 a.m. club, but I don't know if that's in my reality. I love waking up early. I love being able to greet the day, but it's something that I've faced a lot this summer, and I have to just be honest with myself. Maybe this is a hot take. Maybe people won't agree with me, but this is kind of just what's working for me right now. If I don't have anything to do during the day, and I don't, I mean, I'm going to be honest, like I don't. During summer, I do a lot of nothing. If I don't have anything to do I really have to wake up at 6:45 in the morning to go to the gym? No, because I could go at 10 a.m. I could go at 2 p.m. I don't care. As long as I go, right? I don't know. I think I'm just kind of over beating myself up over sleeping too much. Like, if I don't have to get up, I don't have to get up. And I feel like that's fine. I feel like that's really fine. So I don't know if that's a super relatable one, at least maybe in the way that I'm describing it. But if you are a person who beats yourself up over however long you may sleep or how unproductive you feel, that's definitely part of how it feels for me sometimes when I'm beating myself up, is just like, oh, I'm so lazy. I'm being so unproductive. I'm not doing anything. But like, do I need to do anything? Do I need to be productive today? Don't I deserve to rest a little bit after 10 months of one of the most stressful jobs out there? I think I do. And I think you do too. So if that's a struggle, I'm just here to remind you, it is okay to rest. It is okay to rest hard. It is okay to sleep in until 11 a.m. Who cares? Unless you have something to do, who cares? You know? All right. Lesson number 3 is it's okay to invest in yourself. It is okay to invest in yourself. This one is interesting because I have a blog post that I think by the time this episode comes out, this blog post will also already be out. And the blog post is called Why Money Coaching Gives Me the Ick. So I'm going to explain sort of the relationship between these two ideas. I've always had a little bit of a sore spot with money in general. When I was younger, I was always very, very self-conscious about my family's financial status. And looking back on it, we were definitely not below the poverty line. We weren't, I don't even know, I would not call us poor. Like, I was not poor, but we struggled. For sure we struggled. We were definitely a paycheck to paycheck family. I know that my parents have admitted to having to ask other family members for money before, so it was a sore spot for me because I just always felt really self-conscious. I went to a school and I lived in an area where a lot of people were quite wealthy and just, at least as kids, didn't have to worry about stuff like that. But I was always extremely worried about money, extremely worried, even to the point where we would be grocery shopping. I was probably in middle school and I would walk away whenever the total was coming up on the cash register. Whenever my mom would be getting ready to pay, I did not want to know how much she was about to spend on groceries because it would just fill me with anxiety and make me feel so bad and so guilty because I knew that we didn't have a lot of money. So that was always something that I remember doing, just not wanting to see that dollar amount. Or anytime that her and my dad would talk about money openly, I would walk away, but then also secretly want to know what they were talking about. And I just have always had a weird relationship with it. I remember being stereotypically self-conscious about the clothes that I would wear to school because I couldn't afford Uggs, or all my clothes were from Kohl's because we couldn't afford to go to Abercrombie, things like that. And that stuck with me for a really long time, to the point where in college, I had a lot of guilt and I would have a lot of intrusive thoughts about, once I was out of school, not having enough money to support myself. And I definitely thought that that was going to be my life. I had no doubt that I was going to have money struggles, that I was going to be super stressed over money. And it's just money equals stress. That is and was my upbringing. So it's been weird. It's been a weird transition. And it's something that I do try to kind of remind myself of regularly, of, where I used to be in terms of feeling about money. But ever since I moved out of my parents' house and moved in with my partner, we both have our separate jobs and we're both doing really, really well for ourselves. And I'm so immensely grateful. I'm so immensely grateful for it because, like I said, I truly didn't think that this was going to be what I felt like financially at 26. But I'm so lucky. I'm so, so lucky to be able to afford a home and also be able to do things for myself that I want to do. This is where this lesson really comes into play for me, because even though I know that I have a lot of financial freedom and I feel very grateful for that, I still have a lot of qualms about spending money, and I get kind of scared of it. I get scared to spend too much money, even though realistically I can. So something that I have been focusing on and trying to work through in the past month or so, I would say, is just allowing myself that freedom, because I've earned it and it's there. It's my money. I can do that. And one of the biggest ones just in this past couple weeks, actually, literally yesterday, I signed up for a course in practicing intuition, just a 3-month course that is going to teach me how to hone in on my intuition skills and also hone in on my ability to advocate for myself, stand up for myself, stop people pleasing. This kind of goes hand in hand with lesson number 1 of this summer. So it just felt very aligned and very up my alley and very what I want to bring into my life for the next few months. So when I heard the price of this program, the initial reaction was panic. I was like, oh shit, I can't, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. But then I thought about it and I was like, no, I absolutely can. I absolutely can. And it's not going to break the bank. And it's not going to put me in a problem situation. I can do this. I can invest in myself. I can go get my hair cut and then buy myself lunch and then walk over across the street to Barnes & Noble and get myself the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, even though it's from Barnes & Noble and it's expensive there. I can do that and it's okay. Literally all of this happened yesterday, by the way, which at the end of the day, I came home, I sat in my car for a second and I was like, damn, I spent a lot of money today, but I don't feel bad about it. And that felt like immense growth. Immense growth. Coming from a scared teenager who didn't want to shop anywhere other than thrift stores because I felt like I didn't deserve to, or haircuts happen at Hair Cuttery and nowhere else because why would I spend more than $20 on a haircut? It's just things like that. And it's still a battle. It's still something that I have to sit with. And obviously you do have to be realistic and you have to live within your means. But something that I'm realizing is that I have spent my entire life living well below my means because I felt like I had to. And I don't anymore. And that's great. That's awesome. I'm grateful to be here. I know how lucky I am to be able to say that. But it's okay to invest in yourself in the way that you are able to. It's okay. And if you can do it, do it. Because it feels good at the end of the day. It does. It feels really good. Yeah. All right. And then the last one is, this one's interesting, but it is kind of something that I have been musing on, maybe not even just this summer, but it's something that keeps coming back to me as everything does not have to be a thing. And what I mean by that is I am the type of person who loves to have experiences, whether it be spiritual or deep conversations where I learn something about the other person and we cry together, or every time I go out, I want it to be the best night of my life. I want to have all the fun, meet someone new, do something extraordinary, do something I've never done before. Every time I go out in nature, this is a big one actually. Every time I go out to the river or to the beach or I'm in the ocean or it doesn't matter, anywhere that I'm out in nature, I always expect to have some sort of breakthrough, some sort of realization, some sort of spiritual experience. And it's not that I get disappointed when it doesn't happen, but I just go into pretty much every experience expecting to get something out of it, expecting to get a new thing out of it. And that's just not life. I'm realizing life is kind of boring sometimes, and that's okay. It's okay to be boring. It's okay to have a night where it's just another night. You're not wasting your life by having yet another Friday night around the dinner table with your friends playing cards, which is what my friends and I do. And that's fine. We don't have to go do something new every single time. I can sit in the ocean and splash around for 5 minutes and then get out. It doesn't have to be like, wow, the ocean water is cleansing every negative experience from my body that's happened in the last 3 months. Like, life is not like that. And I don't really know why I'm like that. And as I'm talking about it, I don't really know that this is something everyone experiences. But I do think it kind of runs in the spiritual community to a degree, that we're always just kind of looking for something, like something amazing, something profound. And even in saying that, magic and profundity is everywhere. Is profundity a word? I just looked it up. It is a word. It totally doesn't sound like one though. But yeah, magic and profundity are everywhere. That's kind of the beauty of life. But I think the difference in feeling that way versus like wanting something special out of every single moment is that the latter can lead to disappointment. The latter can actually take away from the reality that everything is profound, everything is beautiful. You know, that's kind of the thing that I'm realizing I almost need to shift my focus on. I don't have to make anything more magical and special than it already is, because it already is. So I'm taking these 4 tidbits into the next era of life because I want to just sit with the fact that everything is good. Truly, all is well. All is well. And I sent this meme to a couple friends the other day, but I'm going to read it to you guys because I think it's hilarious and it definitely relates to this sort of idea. Part of one of the conversations we've had on the podcast not too long ago was doom scrolling and fear, lots of fear of everything that's going on in the world. So sometimes this is really where I want to get at with what I'm leaving you on this meme here today. Sometimes it feels like we shouldn't say all is well. And maybe that's just kind of an anxious thought of mine. But it almost feels wrong to say that. Do you know what I mean? Like, not all is well. There's so much scary shit going on in the world. And like, there are people's lives that are not well. But and maybe this is going to be insensitive. I don't know, but I do think it's funny. Maybe you've heard of it before, but it's an old interview that somebody did. It's like a boy that looks like straight out of 2006. And the meme is this. He says to the lady interviewing him, "I live in constant fear of the Western descent towards fascism, but I digress. The club is bumping. The ladies look good. The alcohol is flowing. There is much pain in the world, but not in this room." That's like, it's kind of the energy that I want to have, at least for right now. You know, we can worry about all the other shit at a later date, but right now, and with me as you're listening to this right now, let's just be grateful for where we are and what we do have as an individual, as the closest people in your life right now, the closest circle you have. Let's be grateful for what's there and what you've been able to build and what you've been able to establish in your life. Be proud of yourself. Be fucking proud of yourself. Because I know you've gone through some shit. I know you have. But kind of taking these general ideas and mashing them all into one core feeling, for me, it just feels like a sense of contentment, a sense of okayness. Truly, all is well. We're good. I'm good. And I'm grateful. I am so grateful to be able to say that. So, I hope you are too. I hope that's where you are. And if you're not, but you're still having some general themes come up, let's chat about it. I want to know. I want to know where you are at in life right now. So let me know. And just before we go, as per usual, we're going to pull a We're Not Really Strangers card from the Healing Expansion Pack, because that is kind of the idea behind Led to Gold. We're healing some shit. We're talking about some shit. Okay, here's a good one. What or who do you need to set a healthy boundary with? Explain. If you're new here, if you've never listened to Led to Gold before, I always encourage listeners to journal about this prompt, whatever we get at the end of the episode. So if you have something next to you or nearby, or you want to pause for a second and come back, let's talk about this. Let's journal it out together. So again, what or who do you need to set a healthy boundary with? Explain. All right. So I think for me, I need to set a healthy boundary going into this school year with my students around cell phone usage. And I don't know if that's exactly the best way to think about a boundary. I'm trying to be careful about the way I say it, but it is something that when, I don't think I really need to explain why cell phones are not the greatest thing to have in a high school classroom, especially not in AP, but it's something that I have always struggled with as a teacher, because at the very beginning of the year, I will say, I don't allow phones in my classroom. If you have an emergency, you can go stand outside and take care of it for a couple minutes, but then you need to come back and you need to put your phone away. And that's my rule. So for the first week or two, that's generally followed, but then it slides and I let it slide. So I don't know if maybe that's not like the best answer in the world, but I definitely need to be better about with like upholding the boundary of upholding the rule, if you will, the container of like, we do not have phones in this classroom. Obviously you're going to have your phone in the room, but like, don't have it on your desk. Don't be playing chess while I'm trying to teach you, because that is not helping anybody. So yeah, I need to just actually uphold that and remind them of the rule when they're not following it. So that's my answer. How about you? What do you need to set a boundary with? Let me know. Thank you so much for listening to yet another episode of Led to Gold. Again, if you liked it, if you enjoyed it, I would love if you would leave a quick review or a rating, whatever streaming platform you're on, anywhere. It helps. We are just here to try to build a community and talk about these things, and share with a friend if you think anyone you know would enjoy it. And I'm just really happy to have you. So thanks. I love you. And I will see you again in 2 weeks for another episode. So until then, treat yourself well. Take a breather. Remember, all is well. There are many problems out there in the world, but not in this room. What does he say? There is much pain in the world, but not in this room. And you know what? Even if there is pain in this room, in the room that you are currently in, I'm here with you, and I love you, and I hope that it gets better. Take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.